Whenever I'm watching a show or a movie, one of the biggest questions on my mind is, what is this story about? Not just who are the characters, where are we, and what is the history, but what is the point? What did the artist on the other end want to tell me by making this? George R.R. Martin doesn't want to just tell us, he wants to show us. He shows us humanity, he shows us ourselves. The carnage and depravity depicted in the books has all existed within our history as a species. Many of these horrors still exist in some form today, and most of them are caused by people putting their desires before the needs and autonomy of others, whether it be their own family members or complete strangers. We are shown the consequences of these vile actions and how they trap humanity in a prolonged cycle of violence, pain, and death. So what is the solution? Well, many viewers seem to think George doesn't offer one, that he himself is just a pessimistic, cynical, nihilistic, Machiavellian communist.
Fat, useless, commie piece of shit, George R. R. Martin.
Who thinks doing the right thing is stupid and laughable, and that being an evil asshole is how you win at the game of life. I think many, if not most people, miss the point of this entire universe. So much so that they interpret the exact opposite of the intended message. Or they think there is no intended message. I do think George is partially to blame since he has left the story unfinished for so long, as well as Dave and Dan muddying the point beyond belief with the later seasons of Thrones. A lot of viewers come away thinking that a character like Ned is just plain stupid for holding to his principles in a world that demands selfishness and brutality to secure survival. Many people misread the first season so hard that they come away thinking Ned is just outright dumb.
What? No.
Something that I will debunk in the upcoming Ned video. But I think Martin's book, The Hedge Knight, makes things extra clear. And I am happy to report that the show adaptation has captured the story's message very well, even if they did drop the ball with Maekar. Hedge Knight is practically tailor-made for people who watched Game of Thrones and concluded that it was an indictment on people like Ned and an endorsement of people like Tywin. If you didn't get it the first time, this show is perfect for you. And if you still don't quite get it, well, this video is perfect for you. So let's get into it. What is the point of Westeros and the stories within? Our story follows Sir Duncan the Tall, a young man with simplistic ideals and a simple view of the world. Simplistic ideals and a simple view that are tested as he transitions into manhood. Very notably, Duncan's romanticization of knighthood, as well as the typical audience's romanticization of knighthood, is initially deconstructed. Throughout Thrones, there is a persistent through line of fantasy versus reality. We see that many knights, most knights in fact, do not adhere to their vows of chivalry. It is rare for knights to defend the innocent, rare for nobility to be noble. Martin strips away the finery and the pageantry and reveals the Westerosi hierarchy for the barbaric nonsense that it is. We see a handsome prince being vain and cruel, his splendid clothing and gallant appearance contrasted by his evil deeds. In episode 3, Aerion sees Tanzelle kill a dragon in her puppet show.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
And proceeds to go absolutely apeshit, ordering his men to destroy the puppets and breaking one of Tanzelle's fingers. Duncan sees this and, without a thought, strides up to Aerion and attacks him, pulling his attention away from Tanzelle and saving her life? Other fingers? It's actually unclear what more, if anything, Aerion would have done, but that only adds to the scenario. Because while others might be considering such things, Duncan simply sees something horrendous being done, and without hesitating, decides he's going to put a stop to it, regardless of the guaranteed consequences for attacking a prince. While I will be defending Ned's intelligence a fair amount in the Ned video, Duncan is explicitly written as a simple-minded but pure-hearted man.
What? No.
And his choice to defend Tanzelle, while noble, is objectively not the smart thing to do. A neat realization that Gurm shares with the reader is that true nobility is inherently foolish. This is where, again, many viewers might point and say George is condemning heroism in this moment, showing that it really wasn't worth it and that this choice was kinda dumb. But this isn't a condemnation of heroism, quite the opposite. The fact that Dunk has nothing to gain by doing this and everything to lose only makes it more heroic. What could be more heroic or irrational than giving your life for a complete stranger? Hence why Duncan is both the fool and the knight in this moment.
A fool and a knight? I've never heard of such a thing.
Duncan isn't really a knight, but in terms of character, he's the truest knight of all. And he does get to keep his life and all of his limbs, but his victory comes at the cost of Baelor's life. It's funny to me that people label Martin's work as cynical and nihilistic.
Nothing matters because we're all gonna die someday!
When a hallmark of Martin's writing is that he outright refuses nihilism. He assigns meaning to almost every little detail, and every action has a consequence. Good or bad, right or wrong. Almost every choice these characters make matters in some way. Martin makes handy use of logical consequences, something that really shouldn't be notable, but writers in general tend to cut corners. What makes events like the Red Wedding and Ned's death so effective is that we as an audience are so used to seeing stories where the heroes face immense danger but are always somehow bailed out. But George wholeheartedly rejects this style of writing and crafts his world in a way that defies typical story expectations and rings truer to real life. It makes for a better constructed story and many satisfying developments, but more notably, it really destroys the idea that Martin is a dweller of the moral abyss who thinks nothing matters. The story of Dunk and Egg makes clear that George believes in positive cycles too. Good actions ripple out into the world the same way bad actions do. There are cycles in pain and death, yes, but there are also cycles of growth and mercy. A drunk Sir Arlen risks his life to save a young Duncan in the streets of Flea Bottom. Years later, that same boy grows into a man who risks his life to defend Tanzil. This action inspires Baelor to defend Duncan, and when Baelor tragically dies, seemingly ending this cycle of radical and semi-foolish nobility, we could just call it heroism for short, well, his brother has a substantial change of heart and keeps the cycle alive by sending Arion away and letting Egg squire for Duncan on the road. A detail that I was pretty annoyed to see changed for a cheap gag in the show.
Where's Aegon?
I've not seen him, my prince.
Where the fuck is he?
But whatever. And I won't spoil the outcome of their story, but the entire point is that these choices are one of many that eventually compound into good for humanity. I've heard other YouTubers talk about how they've better come to understand themselves and loved ones thanks to reading Martin's books. Quinn the GM refers to John Connington as his mirror, someone that he learned actual life lessons from because he saw so much of himself in that character. My friend Constantine James has also talked about this, and shared how he had a similar experience with the character of Jon Snow. And I think this analogy of the mirror embodies what makes Martin's books so effective. The world of A Song of Ice and Fire is one giant mirror, one that many believe to be excessively dark and pessimistic, but the sad truth of George's world, of our world, is that this is an honest reflection, and that's what makes it so rare and so effective. When we see these characters make difficult or horrendous decisions, due largely in part to the brutal settings that they are essentially trapped in, we are invited to ask tough questions about ourselves and what deeds, good or bad, that we might be capable of. I think a major point Martin is trying to make here is to withhold judgment, that we cannot know someone until we truly know them and their story. And each time we get to know a character better, we often find ourselves having a lot more compassion for them. A phenomenon that mirrors the complexities of real life and invites us as readers to have more empathy for everyone we interact with, to see a bit of ourselves in everyone else. For me, these stories do a lot to quell my ego, reminding me to see the merits in others and the flaws in myself, as I am seemingly programmed to do the opposite. It pains me to admit that I am no Sir Duncan the Tall. I think I'm among the masses who would do nothing to help Tanzil while Arion is maiming her. And a bleak realization like that isn't meant to cause you despair as a reader. It's meant to inspire understanding and change. This is beautifully exemplified in the character of Maekar. Well, in the book anyway. These ideas of fantasy versus reality involve people, and the people within, like Maekar, buy into this fantasy to cope with their shortcomings, turning this fantasy versus reality into a dynamic of ego versus truth. There's always the desire to stagnate, to believe what you want to believe about yourself, rather than see all of your shortcomings. And what is a mirror for, if not seeing your blemishes? Maekar is hiding from his blemishes when we first meet him, hiding from his family's shame when we first meet him. Because although he knows his sons are full of shit, he is too prideful to bite the bullet and end their charade, even though refusing to do so will mean that an innocent man will be killed. or alternatively lose a hand and a foot. Makar admitting that Daeron was lying and that Arion was completely out of line would be an admission that he as a father has failed, something he isn't capable of until after he kills Baelor. The first step in fixing any problem is identifying it, and this type of reflection is the point of the mirror, the point of all the horrific tragedy and subversion in Martin's work. Makar sees his error in enabling the persecution of an innocent man. He sees his role in the cycle his family is trapped in, and decides to change his ways radically, even a little bit foolishly.
My Lord Father says I am to serve you.
And in doing so, he will shape history in an ultimately positive way, by facilitating all of Dunk and Egg's future adventures. Martin is committed to being honest in telling you the real heroes of the story often die unfairly and brutally, that the first ones to charge are the first ones to fall. He shows that most people don't have it in them to rise above in the face of such challenges, that even if they do, they still might suffer for it. Hell, they probably will. But that is all the more reason to do the right thing, to make a world that isn't like that. Because as bad as Westeros is, as bad as our history is, there is a general trend towards compassion and equality, and it happens in large part because of people like Sir Duncan the Tall. People willing to take the hit and in some way challenge the norm of doing nothing. Actual legends. People like that will have a lasting and positive effect on the rest of history, even if they tragically cannot live to see it. It is bleak, but I think Martin would argue that it's realistic, and in a way that most stories never achieve. And all of this serves to construct the mirror. We are all human, and therefore we all owe each other some humanity, perhaps even some love. And I think that is the point of A Song of Ice and Fire. To help people see themselves and others more clearly, to reflect on the scars and shortcomings in all of us, to challenge the reader and make them see their own role in the perpetuation of evil, so we can do our best to treat everyone we meet with a bit more respect and understanding. Martin doesn't want us to give up or give in, quite the opposite.
Get up.
He wants us to try our best to do the right thing, even when it's really, really difficult. To replace all of these cycles of violence and pain with cycles of kindness and progress. Because someone has to. It's the only way things get better. Dunk is no lunk. He may be a bit slow, but he didn't save Tanzel because he's stupid. He saved her because he cared less about his own life than defending an innocent person from harm. He saved her because, quite simply, he is a good man. Same goes for Baelor, and same goes for the OG Ned Stark. They weren't idiots and they weren't naive. They were good men, and the realm needs good men, just like the world needs good people. A big thank you to my Patreons, Zestacha, ChaosHang89, and Ellis. Zestacha has been supporting for 2 months, ChaosHang for 11 months, and Ellis for 14 months. More than a year. You three are the MVPs. Seriously, thank you guys so much for your generosity. And as for future content, the script for the Ned video is finally done, so that should be on the way soon. I also have a couple mostly complete scripts for shorter videos like this, and I've started the next Season 5 breakdown, so you'll be getting content a bit more regularly, at least for the near future. I have also started a podcast with Constantine James, and we have more than 7 hours of coverage for Season 1 of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. The channel is called Bros Without Banners, and a link will be in the description, so go check it out. We're currently covering Season 1 of Arcane 2, and have plans to cover a lot more. But that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching through to the end. In the light of the 9 Wombos, I bless you.